Hello everyone, Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden along with Pastor Scott and Shannon, our special guest who I'm excited for you guys to get to know. Today is episode 8 of Straight Talk, No BS. I know, 8 already.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? We're cruising and moving. And we're talking real faces of homelessness. So Shannon, you have a story to tell, but before we get into that, can you tell a little bit about what your life is like right now?
Well, right now, life is, completely different than what it was. I'm able to hold a full-time job and maintain a relationship with my kids, a relationship...
How many kids do you have?
3.
Okay.
A relationship with my family. I'm in a marriage, a happy marriage at that, so that's something different. Life is good today, genuinely.
So you were a former guest of Matthew's Hope, and now you are a staff, on staff.
Yes.
Okay. So Scott, does she look like somebody that somebody would look at and be like, oh, she's used to be homeless?
Today? No. When I met her, it's like the scarecrow
I can't even imagine you like that. Like
it's hard. Seriously.
I didn't know you back then. I know you now.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to even imagine that.
Yeah, she gives you that big smile, and you go, ooh.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah. You can't even physically suck them in that far. I mean, she was in pretty rough shape.
So what circumstances led you to homelessness?
Well, being born, but...
Besides that fact.
That's where it started.
No, but I'm a firm believer that my mom did the best she could. But survival skills just kind of kicked in from early on. And I was never really taught that education was important. So skipping out of school, going to do extracurricular activities, and one thing leads to another. Life happens, and sooner or later I just lost everything.
Okay. And what was it like coming to that realization that you were homeless? Like, was it a while, or did you just fall flat on your face and you're like, oh my gosh? Like, when was that realization that I need to do something different?
Well, there was a deep ingrained denial that I was homeless, because I would do whatever it took to, whichever guy I was getting a hold of to have a place to sleep, or whether it be hanging out in a car with someone, because the kind of people I was with, they didn't necessarily have houses themselves, and just kind of going from one place to the next. Every once in a while I'd get a hold of my mom and kind of read the conversation of not remembering how I left it the last time I left it with her, so kind of read her tone out of am I able to go there tonight, which usually wasn't the case, and I'm grateful for that today looking back, because it didn't enable my behavior and probably helped me hit my bottom a lot sooner than I would have. But yeah, I forgot the question.
So no, you answered it. You answered it well, actually. So Scott, before you talked about the importance of people accepting their reality of where they're at.
Yeah, I think
so they can move forward.
The hardest part for, I think, most of us, I mean, even I'm 61 years old and I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I'm still trying to grow and understand how God made me, and looking at, with some people look at deficiencies and I've tried to make them my superpowers and what have you, but it's tough to get to that place when you have kind of completely gone off the rails and you're not even sure you're off the rails because it becomes your normal, and then try to kind of, the hope is that somehow you wake up one day and you go, this just doesn't seem right. I think it's really hard to, until somebody has embraced their homelessness, if it's addiction, they've embraced the fact that they're an addict, Shannon and I will laugh about stuff that is really probably for some people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Really morbid.
Yeah, it is morbid. It is morbid. But you sit there and you kind of go like, yeah, we thought this was a good idea. How stupid was that?
Yeah.
I used to joke and say, well, I never put a needle in my arm. But I didn't think anything about putting purple microdot in my eye. I mean, what was I thinking? But, I was a higher level of addict kind of thing. So you kind of, you play these mind games with yourself. And I think part of it is just trying to, because you don't know yourself to begin with. And so you're trying to.
Like she said, it was from birth.
Right,
She didn't know.
Very similar. Our stories are similar like that. I think I look back now and I think my mom did the best she could with what she had, and it's unfortunate that some of the things that happen, but here we are, And I think the other side of it is though, and that when you get to that place where you're where we're at now, in some ways I'm oddly thankful for it, but I would never want to do it again.
Right.
But I'm thankful for it because I look through a different lens now when I see people.
Your perspective's totally different.
And I think that would have been really important when I first met Shannon, because the girl didn't exactly have it together when we first met,
Yeah.
And she was kind of one of those that I went, oh boy, I had to really inside myself kind of dig deep and remember some of myself a little bit, because there's this part of me that, because I picked myself up, that why aren't you type of thing, and that's kind of why we started Matthew Soap to begin with, is to help people help themselves. And at times once Shannon kind of dove in, then it was at times trying to pull her back at times, because she wanted to fix it all overnight. And I'd have to stop and say to her.
Was it overwhelming? Because it doesn't fix overnight?
I mean, I feel like I probably could have fixed it overnight. Actually, being in the program and knowing that I did have control over my circumstances and control over my life, and knowing that I was able to move forward, I did want to just do it all, right? There's no limits or bounds to what I'm capable of. And that was just a really freeing thought and a new experience. Because, growing up, I never thought I would be capable of anything that I've been able to accomplish while being in the program, and even after.
So you seem like a typical good candidate for the Moving Forward program, because you're like, oh, well, this is in my hands, and I can take the steps to do it. Did you have the kids at the time when you were homeless?
I did not. Luckily, I was blessed enough. My ex-husband's parents has them.
Okay. And what was a typical day for you as a mom? And this is no BS, and I'm just curious as a mom, like being away from your children, and you're homeless, and I can't imagine the feelings that you were going through and everything that you were dealing with. Like, what was a typical day for you?
So to be completely blunt, there were no feelings, because I was high out of my mind all the time. I've had this memory come up the last couple of days of being in the back of a car, being with people I had no business being with, and my kid's grandmother sent me a picture of my daughter's hair getting cut, like after she cut her hair. And I just remember feeling like I should be there for her first haircut. And I just remember crying, turning myself into a victim of how dare they mentality. But that's what happens when you're using and you're delusional.
And is that one of the reasons why you were using, to just get away from everything and just be numb? Or
so about that, I started using after life circumstances happened, and I just started using to escape everything. I still had my kids at the time, which is not something I'm proud of at all. And I was just talking about this the other night of, how kids just remember the darndest things.
They do. And they share the darndest things too.
We're just sitting there over dinner, or swimming or just anything random.
Yeah.
And my oldest son in particular will be like, you remember when you used to not feed us? And I would have to, feed Mason and Paisley. And in those moments, I get choked up because I don't know what to say back, and
Right.
genuinely, I don't remember them.
Yeah.
And those are hard truths that I have to deal with. I have been able to forgive myself and know that I never have to be that mom again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that must be so hard. I'm so proud of you. So what led you to Matthew's Hope?
So I'm actually in a 12-step program.
Okay.
And one of the ladies there mentioned Matthew's Hope. I actually called. So let me set the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm, in this
Give us all
drug.
the deets.
I'm in this drug motel in Kissimmee, thinking about, getting sober at this point. I probably have like 15 days or something, and it's clear that the guy I'm with is still using, and I didn't want that for myself anymore. And I was never the type of person to go to jail or go to hospitals and get out and have this new resolve.
I do want to hear about that.
Have this new resolve for getting sober. Like, even when I went to jail, I had someone in the parking lot to meet me to get high. So the fact that I was even considering or thinking about getting sober was something I took very seriously. So I went to, Zoom meetings, met this lady, called her. Actually, it was a third party. I got her number from someone else. And called her, and she mentioned Matthew's Hope, and the rest is just kind of history.
So you got into the Moving Forward program. Transitional housing, did you get into that? How long did that take?
So the way...
What's the timeline of...
So it's a little different for everyone, right?
Okay.
But my certain circumstances, at the time, I was working at a cleaning company. So I wasn't able to always make it every Tuesday or Thursday, but they were really flexible with, okay, well, you get off this day at this time, come in. So it took me a little longer because I could only come in when I got off of
working,
work.
so gotcha.
But I, was sure to call to say, hey, I'm going to be late, or I'm not going to be able to make it, or whatever the case may have been. And so I would say it probably took about maybe 2 months.
Okay. So, Pastor Scott, what makes Shannon different from somebody else, another guest, for her qualifying for this transitional housing?
She's me. She's me. I saw in her, I'm a girl dad. And when I met Shannon, even though, in one of our magazines we have pictures of her, and you really wouldn't know it was the same person. But there was a beauty that I saw in her even there, and something just said, you gotta catch this one. You gotta catch this one. And I think because of her circumstances coming in, because she was trying to work and stuff, and we try not to discourage people from working, but we also need to know that we kind of got to get our full hands on you in the beginning.
Right.
And
to take each of those steps.
But yeah, but she was very persistent in like she said, communicating with us, and that was half of it. Yeah. And I think she came to realize too, because I think I said to her early on, I said, you can tell me anything, but don't lie to me because I'm an addict. And I said, I will figure you out. And we just kind of, at that point, it's like, okay, we've just made that connection. Let's see where this thing goes. And, the sad part for Shannon, and what's so beautiful about it now is that, the horror of, as she was kind of coming out of the fog of knowing what kind of mother she had been, and finding that she really loved her children. Well, now you got a situation where you really love your children, but your children are not really sure they want to know you, kind of thing. Especially her son, because he'd seen some stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And so to see those relationships now are so cool. So cool. We, when she first came in, she didn't have the kids, and she had to get so far along. And then we had to get DCF involved because there's requirements that DCF requires for her to have her children, and the style of housing and all that kind of stuff. And we went, she was very patient for someone who wasn't very patient, because she just wanted it to be over.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's why I'm saying earlier I kind of pull the reins back a little bit and say, Shannon, this didn't happen overnight. You know, we've got to work these processes. And she really embraced working her program also, the 12 steps. And that's a battle that a lot of people face too, because they go, well, I don't need that. You know, for me, I never went through it, but I am so rare of someone who didn't have that. I mean, I'm the guy who detoxed himself, you know, locking himself in a room. You don't do that. That's not a good idea. And so, you know, as I learned about how the 12 steps work years ago, and I said, God, if somebody would just follow this, it's especially if you go in the early stages when AA first started, it was very biblically based. Some of it has gotten away from that now, more higher power type thing. Yeah. But some of them are, but you start, it makes you kind of look in the mirror and realize you've got to deal with your stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't take responsibility, because I look at it this way, I said to go, you know, I can't change what happened as I grew up. And I need to own my parts that I participated in, and the other part is giving in and forgiving those around you as well, because it's really easy to blame everybody.
Sure.
You know, now, did they help ignite the flame? Probably, but I'm not saying they did it on purpose like she did. And I said, my mom did the best she could.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's kind of funny because my sister is a very angry person. We don't have a relationship, and a lot of the same things happen to both of us. And my mom said to me a while back, she goes, you know, we just started having a relationship the last few years.
Okay.
And I said, Mom, you know, I said, I can't, I'm not Sherry. And I said, I don't know, other than tell you that we both felt you should have been protecting us. And whether you didn't or couldn't, you know, I don't know. But it didn't happen. And so she's still angry. But she decided to live with the anger, where I decided to go, okay, that's killing nobody but me. You know, and you got to kind of get there too, because you know, I could sit there and be angry and easily, and you could sit there and go, you know, we say, well, we were born. I've answered the same way sometimes. So when you said that, I went, okay, well, there you go. You know, like we hatch out of the shit egg. Sorry, but you know, it is no BS. It just is life.
So did Shannon have any setbacks along this 12-step program? Or did you just like fly through it? I feel like you just flew through it, but
I had lots of come to Jesus moments.
Okay.
We had some come to Jesus meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so.
Do you want to share any of those with us?
Well, I got a car. I wasn't really supposed to get a car. That was one of them. I signed up for school, and I wasn't necessarily supposed to sign up for school.
Okay.
So those were some moments, but I wouldn't necessarily call them setbacks.
Yeah, it was.
I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good that you did that, right?
It was
but I
more
understand that there's like
of this
steps.
understanding and taking these steps. And my concern for Shannon is because when she bought in, she bought in hook, line, and sinker, which scared me a little bit, because sometimes people get to, I've seen other people kind of at more of a rapid pace. And what happens often is, okay, I'm there. And then they're gone. And then they fall to pieces sometimes in weeks.
Happen.
And because with her.
And I have my whole DCF case plan I'm trying to work out during this time. So I'm like, let me do this and this and this.
Right.
So it was way too much at one time, which is, you know, a coping mechanism too, of like, let me just fill myself with so many things that, you know.
Yeah. It's been crazy to watch and admire at the same time. But there were times where I kind of felt like her dad going, okay, love you, babe, but you gotta slow down a little bit here, you know. And sometimes I would just, you know, Shelley or someone would come to me and say, Shannon did this, and I'd go, are you, I won't even say what I said. Oh, you're kidding me, you know, and I'm going, oh, God, Shannon, God dang it, you know. And I take a deep breath, and I go, okay, tell her come see me.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and say, okay, you want to help me understand what's going on here? And the sad part is, or good part, I don't know what it is, but there's sometimes she had this really great way of presenting it to me, to where it's kind of like, oh gosh, okay, you know, maybe I'm just the idiot here, you know. But much like, other guests we've talked to, with Shannon, she got to that place where she goes, okay, I'm seeing the bigger picture here, and I don't want just some of it, I want all of it. And I think that's the fun part now for me, is to watch her. I mean, her own home is being built right now as we speak.
The drywall got put up yesterday.
Okay?
Congratulations.
She bought with her credit, with her, and to me, I mean, trust me, her credit line wasn't anything to look at when she came.
Yeah. So
to-
people looking at that, looking back, like a typical person, well, I wouldn't hope that they're typical, but somebody may look at her pictures, her in the hospital, her going to jail. And how do you feel about those people thinking, well, just give up on her, or don't help her, or she's this way?
People write them off.
Yeah.
And I get
What do you
it,
say to
seriously.
those people that are thinking that? Because I don't know if it's I don't want to say that they're bad people. Do they have a wrong perspective? Do they need more education, like what we're doing? Or like what?
All of the above, but the other side of it is there's this fine line of we talked in our previous episode about toxic charity, how when helping hurts. A lot of what's happened in a lot of cases is the addiction and homelessness, or addiction or homelessness, was perpetuated by the very people that say they're trying to help. And so it's tough, because when I have mothers call me and they think that I can walk on water, and I'm going, and my heart's breaking for them, because you can hear in their voice that they're just sick, but I can't do it, Scott. I can't do it anymore. I have nothing else to give. And I'm going, here's what you need to do: is you tell them you love them, you're going to pray for them, but also be prepared that it could go, it's bad now, it could go really bad. But hopefully by the grace of God they live, and when they hit that place, maybe then they can come to us, But I think a lot of it is education and things like that. People really don't understand that most of homelessness, and when I say most, I'm saying like 99%, is tied to some type of trauma.
Yes.
And it may be trauma that some of us all went through a similar trauma, but God made us each different, and
Right.
how we dealt with it,
Absolutely.
can be very different. I was that guy who I just got determined that nobody was going to stop me. But then I also realized there was also nobody out there really trying to help me out anyhow. So that's why when I started Matthew's Hope, it was really like, hey, I think we can do this different.
Yeah.
I think we can do this different, and be that cheerleader, encourager, have those come to Jesus meetings. There's so much about Shannon that has been fascinating to me that is so different. You have to share the debt aspect of this.
Yes, please. I was going to bring that up.
To this day, I am still trying to process all that.
So part of the program when you come in is you come in completely transparent. This is my debt. Of course, you walk along with someone to help you, because that can be overwhelming within itself.
Right.
So I log into good old Credit Karma, and I see about, I don't know, between 8 or
10,000,
9.
yeah.
8 or 9 different bills for overdosing, and having to ride in the ambulance and all of that, and it added up to about 8 or 9,000,
Wow.
maybe even 10, and that can be overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But I just kept pushing forward, and
Yeah.
it all got consolidated and
It's gone.
gone.
Yay.
She worked it
So-
off. I mean, the truth is,
So great.
we didn't take care of it. We just showed her the steps to take and the work you have to put in to
she
do it.
put
She
in
did
the
it.
work.
But there's something else that's unique about it, though, too. Also, is that Shannon was able to look at that as hindsight now, and say, okay, that's each time was a time I OD'd, and this is the last time. And I'm trying to remember, because I forgot. There's something about it that I remember that you had. And I apologize. I probably should ask you about this before so we could talk about it. But there was something about when you last OD'd.
2019.
Yeah, and she was on it, okay? And then life changed very dramatic not soon after that, okay? But like me, she has kind of held on to that. I know who I was, It's part of my story. It doesn't define me.
Right.
And I think that the challenge that a lot of people have is they can't talk about it. And it's not so much they don't want to, but they don't realize that if you don't just put yourself out there, you know, I mean, I've actually had people, I've been clean 30 years, and I've had people say, well, you know, he's a drug addict. And, well, what was the purpose of doing that? Well, it was to tear me down. You know, but if I tell people I'm a drug addict, you say, well, what, you read it in his bio? I mean, come on, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
You know, so I try to take that away, that power away from people, but I also say this and I've probably said it to you at one time or another, there's people in my life that wouldn't spit on me if they walked past me. Okay? Yeah, I hurt them somewhere along the way. I wish they knew who I was now, and I can't fix that. So I also can't be
Hopefully
angry.
they're watching now.
Well, hopefully, you never know. They'll probably be saying, he's still alive? You know? But you know, I also look at it this way. I made my own bed.
Yeah.
And though I wish that was different, you know, and by the grace of God, maybe it will be different for some of them later. But in the meantime, I've become comfortable with who I am and my story. And
that's
I
helpful to
can't
other people,
carry
too.
that as an anchor.
Right.
You know, one of the analogies I always use, instead of carrying all that crap as an anchor, we're going to put it in one nice pile and push yourself over the fence. And the nice thing about Shannon, while I was helping build that pile, she's in there making it, you know, saying, well, let's make it a little bit higher because I think I can get over this fence faster.
I love it. I love your
You know, 'cause,
determination.
yeah, her time with us is one of the shorter times with us for someone who came in with as much junk as she came in with.
Shannon,
Yeah.
could you imagine, or do you ever like just think how your life would be without Matthew's Hope?
You know, I can't say that I do think about that because life would be unimaginable without Matthew's Hope. However, if I were to try to think of it, I would probably, you know, be getting first day pictures of my kids going to school this year and, you know, going to get high.
But now you're in the front seat. You're in the driver's seat, not
Yeah.
even the front seat. You're in the driver's seat.
Yes.
And you put in the work to do that. That's
Oh, she wants to
amazing.
drive the bus.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
she doesn't want to drive the forever seat. Well, she wants to
Yeah.
make sure everybody else is on there with her. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Of course.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might be wondering where we are. Can you tell everybody a little bit about the Matthew's Hope Chest?
So we are in the Hope Chest, which the cool thing about the Hope Chest is some of the pieces that we have here come from the wood shop, and
Okay.
everyone who works in there was previously homeless or is in our program and are learning new trades, new
Cool.
skills. So a lot of our pieces come from there.
Okay.
And all the proceeds go back into Matthew's Hope and just kind of help keep us moving. And we have these really cool shirts here from We Are Winter Garden.
Oh.
Lots of different sizes and colors.
Nice little plug.
Lots of different merchandise, bags,
Okay.
water bottles, thermoses, things like that.
And if anybody wants something specific tailored to their vision, they could just call and talk to you guys and work something out, and they can
Yeah.
build it.
There's times people bring us pictures, you know,
Cool.
and they say, hey, I like this tabletop with these legs.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the guys write up, you know, they put together kind of a sketch or something and kind of give an idea of what we think it's going to cost.
Okay.
And we put that forward to them. We always talk about it as a suggested donation because we are a nonprofit.
Yeah.
People have been very fair with us. But what's really cool is that in here also is we have homeless men and women working in here. And so it also, especially those that have kind of, some folks really withdraw. And so it's hard to do even like what we're doing right now.
Sure.
Making eye contact and
Well, like you said, telling the story.
yeah, letting your guard down.
I was very much like that when I came
Oh.
in.
Yeah.
Head down. I didn't want to engage in any conversation. Very much, you know, just
Short answers.
short answers, you know.
So what does the future hold for you?
You know, I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but I don't have
you're
to.
in the driver's seat,
I don't have
so.
to worry about it being jail or hospital. So I mean, that's a plus.
A little bonus there.
Yeah. I mean,
Let's just take one day at a time.
one
Is
day
that
at a
what
time.
happens?
I know without a shadow of a doubt, lots of love
all
in
those,
my
yeah.
life, lots of happiness, lots of laughter. That's not to say that there's not going to be stressful moments, but since going through the program, I'm more equipped to be able to handle life on life's terms as it comes at me.
Yeah.
Whereas before I'd be like, okay, well, I need to go get high because
Right.
this
Can't
sucks.
deal
You have the tools in your tool belt now, so you can handle that.
What's cool too, and you know, she's not real humble, but she is. She oversees the store now.
Wow.
But the coolest thing she did is that I think I asked her one day. I said, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And she said, I really would like to help others. And you know, because of her history, she's going to be. Here's what's really weird about the world we live in. This place called United States is who would you rather have talked to? Someone who read about it in a book or someone who's lived through it?
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
said, you know, Shannon, I said, you know, your opportunity is going to be somewhat limited out in the real world, but here, I'd love to have you here.
Yeah.
You know, so she's working as an advocate now.
That's awesome.
She goes out in the field. She visits camps. She visits the homeless out in the field. And then when we bring them in, she starts working with them in the program as an advocate. She's doing for
life-changing.
others now what others and me and whatever did for her. You know, and what she's gotten really great at is she asks a lot of questions. She still is learning. It's because what we do, it's hard to be taught. It's kind of like you pull from a lot of your personal experience, and then you can kind of be coached through it. But you can't teach people compassion. You can't teach people a story we lived.
Sure.
You know, but what we can do, and I always tell people is, I think, I'm sure I said it to you at times, I can, as much as our stories come together and correlate to one another, I would never tell her I understand. Because there's no way for me to get that deep in her head and heart to understand. I can empathize because our situations were similar, but I could never understand. And then I look at her and I think as a female, then I go, ooh,
Right.
you know, but you know, she's talked about things, I mean, we do things when we're there that even today, I go, oh, that can't be me. It's like watching somebody else. I know it was me, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, you would never do that. You would never think of that. And if somebody else did it, you'd be looking at them like, what are you thinking? But when you get in that place, you're capable of almost anything. And it's sad, and sad is you don't remember a lot of it. And then when you do remember, you know, it comes with a certain amount of shame. But then that kind of instills in you again that, yes, I'm not worthy, I'm no good. I just proved once again that I'm not worthy and I'm no good. And so you fall in that trap of buying into the lie.
Yeah.
And that's just from the pit of hell. I mean, the truth is that, you know, God has created us in a magnificent way. He doesn't make mistakes, but he also gives us free will. And life can be hard, but if we can kind of embrace it, there's I don't know if I've ever had you read this book, but it's called Dangerous Wonder. And a guy named Mac Iaconelli wrote it. It's only about this thick, and Mike's no longer with us. He died a few years ago, but he talks about this ride of faith. And he says, it's like a roller coaster. He says, you know, it goes up and down and twists upside down. You're yelling, you're screaming. Sometimes you might even cuss. And then it comes to an abrupt stop, and what do you want to do? Ride it again. And that's kind of what the faith is like. And our story is spend a little more time, like when it comes down to the water and the crappy part, we just spend a little more time there. Yeah. But when we saw the top, we saw it all.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very proud of her, and I love her dearly. And I tell people I'm not supposed to have favorites, but she's a favorite.
But
People
then
are
I
watching.
came.
Don't say that right now.
You know, I'm
It's
just 'cause
documented now.
I'm really so proud of her,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of the mother she's become, and the independence that she has developed. I mean, I don't think anything can stop her.
No, it doesn't seem
And
like nothing.
I'm just blessed to be in the audience of her life, because that's what does it for me.
I'm definitely blessed to have met you. Really inspiring. So to continue this work, to continue to help more people, how is Matthew's Hope funded?
By the grace of God.
By the minute?
You know, I mean, we are funded really mostly by the community. Our
Okay.
average donor is middle class people that get what's going on. I will tell you, since the pandemic, it's been a lot tougher because those same middle class people are now paying $200, $300, $400 a week, in some cases more, for groceries and stuff. And so we kind of get left out. And though our donor base is bigger than it's ever been, our average donation is about half. But I always tell people, we can use your time, your talents, and your treasures. We have events come up that you can find on our Facebook page.
So Acoustic Sunset is coming up.
Acoustic Sunset's coming up.
October 18th.
It's going to be a blast. It's
That'll
going to be
fun.
a lot of fun. David Dorman, who's Century 21 a realtor, puts on. It's a concert. It's food trucks. It's silent auction. It doesn't cost anything to go.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
one of the cool things about it is they sell only 100 tickets for $100.
Oh, wow.
For a chance to win a cruise.
Okay.
And so your odds, 1 in 100.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And so, those tickets can be bought through our office. They can be bought through his office.
Okay.
But it's going to be a good time. And it's the time that we also, the fun part now is having Shannon on this side of the fence, so
Yeah.
to speak, is, we can celebrate that together and then kind of look and see, much like we've talked about other guests, she's one that's determined to reach her hand back to the next one. And that's
amazing.
We all need somebody sometimes just to reach back and lend a hand up.
Definitely. Shannon, is there anything else that you want to add?
I'm just grateful to be here, grateful, looking back at the beginning of my journey with Matthew's Hope, even to where I'm at today, I know in my heart of hearts that my journey, 5 years from now, I'll still be talking about what I've accomplished with Matthew's Hope from that point until now. So I'm just excited for what the future holds, and I'm excited that I'm able to say that and mean it
So
today.
cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for being here and being vulnerable and opening up and telling us your story. I enjoyed it, and I don't know how I could love you more, but I do. You're just amazing. It's really, really cool. You're very inspiring. So thank you for sharing everything. Also, Scott, I know your heart is so big, and I love when we do these faces of homelessness. You get emotional, and all the feelings
They typically
come out.
aren't who you think they are. And I would just ask that anytime somebody sees someone out there, just consider there's probably a story that you'll have no idea how they got there.
Amen to that.
And you have to ask yourself what happened in their lives that made it acceptable to live that way. And then what can I do?
Yeah.
When someone asked me the other day is, if you were to walk away, could you? And I went, how could I walk away knowing what I know? And if not us, then who?
Yeah.
And if not now, then when?
Well, God
So
bless
let's
you
make a
for that.
difference.
That's definitely, and together we can.
Yep.
So thank you for watching and listening. Please, in any way that you can, help Matthew's Hope, whether it be financially, your time, whether you're talking to somebody on the streets who needs just that moment of love. Let's come together as a community, because it's all of our responsibilities. It's not
And if
just
you
your
got-
responsibility. It's not yours. It's all of ours to take care of each other.
And if you got questions, let us know.
Please.
Get a hold of us, because we want to hear your questions. There's nothing we're afraid to talk about, and not just about Matthew's Hope, but in homelessness in general, or addiction, or what have you. There's so many stories that we can talk about, and we just know a few of them, but each of them is different, and we have to understand that. That's the beauty of the individualism of who we are.
Yeah.
It gives us a lot of stories to talk about.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.